Good afternoon, everyone. Um, it's such a pleasure to see everyone gathered here today. Friends, colleagues, and new faces joining us from different parts of over the world. On behalf of Frida's Initiative for Academic Excellence, I want to say a big thank you for making time to be part of today's conversation. Our theme today is artificial intelligence in criminal justice, opportunities and risk in Africa. Now, why this theme? Because AI is no longer a futuristic idea, it is here with us. It is changing the way investigations are done, how courts handle evidences, and even how justice are delivered. That's exciting because it also raises tough question. Can AI be fair? Can it protect human rights? Can it work in Africa or needs just be based on system research? So without wasting much of our time, we have prepared musical performance for us today to help us understand this today. Now I will call on the president of the Initiative for Academic Excellence to give us the remarks and chair the session. We start with the state of
Please kindly confirm if I can be heard.
Yes, sir, you can be fine.
All right. The Board of Directors at Farida's Initiative for Academic Excellence, starting from the Assistant Director of Programs and Logistics, Mr. Ahmed Swalawango, Assistant Director of Finance, Dr. Mrs. Foluke Dare from Australia, Assistant Director of Admin, Mr. John Akinwumi Ayobami, happy anniversary. To the head of units at Fridaus Initiative for Academic Excellence, our invited guest speakers, starting from Professor Tajuddin Sani, who is the Head Center for Transformative Environmental and Marine Law at the Faculty of Sharia and Law, Villa College in Maldives, ably represented by Ms. Isha Adil Nassim. Please, Ms. Nassim, help us send our regards to Prof. We wish him a very speedy recovery. Dr. Nyambi Info, Assistant Professor at Faculty of Sharia and Law, Villa College, Maldives. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Mr. Daniel Duom Kelai Ayak, who is a lecturer at Stafford International University in South Sudan. He's equally a legal consultant and a PhD candidate at Nelson Mandela University in South Africa. Mr. Daniel, thank you for accepting the invitation. To the participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon from West Africa. On behalf of the Artificial Intelligence and Technology Unit of our organization, I warmly welcome you to this webinar on artificial intelligence in criminal justice opportunities and risks in Africa. As an organization, we are delighted to have participants joining this webinar from different places and bringing together diverse perspectives to enrich today's discussion. You agree with me that artificial intelligence is transforming every aspect of our lives, and the criminal justice system is no exception. From predictive policing, digital forensics, to case management, sentencing tools, AI is being explored as a way to make justice system more efficient, more accessible, more productive, more effective. But these opportunities, as promising as they are, we try to harness faster investigations, we reduce case backlogs, it drives data insights, it enhances transparency in decision making. But as good as all of these, and as we embrace these possibilities and opportunities, we must also confront the challenges, because AI is not neutral. AI is not neutral. AI reflects the data and assumption that is fed into it. So this means it can unintentionally perpetuate bias, raise serious concerns about privacy, it can limit accountability, and even challenge fundamental rights when used without clear safeguards. The key question as intellectuals that we must ask is how can we harness the benefit of AI while protecting the values of fairness, equality, and human dignity at the heart of justice? Therefore, this webinar provides us with a timely platform to reflect, to exchange ideas, and to learn from experts on how AI can become an ally to justice rather than a threat. I want to encourage everyone to engage actively and share perspectives and ask questions as we work towards building frameworks that will balance innovation with responsibility. Before ending these opening remarks, I want to especially appreciate the head of Artificial Intelligence and Technology, Mr. Shafi Abdullah, for a job well done, for bringing this topic and for mobilizing intellectuals and invited guests to talk about this. This is a very contemporary topic and it's going to be very useful. I'm sure the recommendations will go a long way in shaping the criminal justice system in Africa. So while I look forward to a thought-provoking and enriching discussion, on behalf of the Board of Directors for Firdaus Initiative for Academic Excellence, you are highly welcome to this webinar, and I hereby declare the webinar open. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. So without wasting much of our time, we will move to the next program. And that is, we are going to be having our first lecture delivered by Mr. Daniel Joe. He is going to be talking on artificial intelligence and criminal justice reforms in Africa, balancing innovation and human rights. Mr. Daniel Joe is a lecturer in law, legal consultant, advocate, and legal scholar. He is an LLT PhD candidate at Nelson Mandela University, South Africa, and holds Masters of Law from the University of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and Bachelor's of Law from Government National University, Uganda. He is a member of South Sudan Bar Association, and also a founding partner at Beacons of Light Advocates. Director at Apple Legs Consulting Limited, head of advocacy and research unit at Firdaus Initiative for Academic Excellence, and country director for South Sudan at Firdaus Initiative Services Limited. Mr. Daniel lectures public international law, environmental and natural resources law, petroleum law at Stanford International University. He is a multi-sport coach at Stanford International University, focusing on international humanitarian law and international rights. Prior to joining the academy, Mr. Daniel was a humanitarian worker in the capacity of project manager and coordinator of integrated protection projects, and served as an alternate member of the strategic advisory of the Global Protection Cluster on behalf of CIA South Sudan, representing national NGOs. Furthermore, he is also an associate at United Edge, focusing on environmental justice and human rights. His key area of research interests include international law of shared water forces, environmental protection, natural resources, conservation, climate change, human rights, and has published in these areas within his journal article titled Legal Protection of Victims of Trafficking Persons in South Sudan, which is available. So Mr. Daniel is going to be discussing with us today artificial intelligence and criminal justice and criminal justice reforms, balancing innovation and human rights. Mr. Daniel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chaffee. I hope I can be heard and seen clearly.
Yes, I
Thank you so much. I want to take this opportunity to appreciate you for the kind introduction and also for the invitation to present at this webinar. And I also want to appreciate the FIDOS initiative for academic excellence, and particularly the director, Mr. Abdul Karim Aziz, my former lecturer at Kampala International University. And also, I'm also privileged to present today with my mentor and the supervisor and the lecturer, Professor Tajuddin. I also saw him in the invitation. I'm really grateful, and also to everyone and the FIDOS family and our viewers. I am now from South Sudan. At this time is evening. To us, it may not be the same in the part of the globe. And as earlier introduced, that I'll be tackling a topic majorly under the major theme, as it was later on explained: artificial intelligence in criminal justice, opportunities and risks in Africa. Of course, my topic would be artificial intelligence and criminal justice reforms in Africa, balancing innovation and human rights. And it's an area I'm very passionate. I do not claim to be an expert in this area, but also a learner in the same school. And my presentation is going to be structured this way for those who are going to follow me. And I'm going to look at the introduction and the definitions of the key terms in this topic. And I'll look at the challenges facing African criminal justice and examples of using AI. This presentation does not claim that AI has not been used in the African context. That has been used, but there is more to be done to improve this and maximize the opportunity. I also look at the benefits of using AI. Some have already been touched in the introduction. In the criminal justice in the African context, the challenges of using it with regards to human rights protection, and we'll look at the recommendations and concluding remarks from my side. So that's how my presentation will look like. I'm going not to take a lot of time. I will touch hints on a few things that we need to reflect on. As I said from the introductory perspective, in this age of technological advancement and digital transformation, Africa should maximize the opportunity to use AI. And as I said, artificial intelligence has been used in the other parts of the globe, and of course, quietly doing well, and it also has its limitations. So the Africans should maximize this opportunity to use artificial intelligence, and important as this webinar is going to uncover, to overcome the host of challenges that is facing the African criminal justice, while balancing, as the topic is, balancing innovation with the human rights protection, because AI has also limitations as far as human rights are also concerned. And we'll look at such limitation in the area of equity, data protection, other human rights such as privacy. We'll definitely look at that particular point. Now, currently, what informs this debate or this discussion is the tension between monetization and the protection of human rights. And that's where the debate is, and how best such innovations could be geared or integrated into the African context. It is an aspect we need to look at. But before we proceed, some could be like me in the first place, have no concrete foundation in information technology or in AI. So it would be important to define what is an artificial intelligence in this sense. From that very definition, artificial intelligence, that creates in mind the opposites. If there's artificial, that could be natural intelligence. So what then is the natural intelligence, so that we're able to know the artificial intelligence? What we mean by natural intelligence is actually the human intelligence, is the natural intelligence. So what comes in is that there are situations whereby the human intelligence may have also certain limitation. So the AIs in this context would refer, of course, I'll not be able to sign much of the authorities. This webinar is not only for the lawyers, but also for the public consumption. So just understand that I consulted many authorities and would be able to say it's about referring to machine and computer system performing tasks that ordinarily would be done by a human being. I had this discussion at some time back, that was in 2021. Colleagues were chatting, and somebody said the AI is going to take shape and it will lead to unemployment. And somebody responded and said, you need not to worry about AI unless if your work does not require intelligence, human intelligence. I think what that person was trying to say, that there are certain works that do not require that, but I didn't get into what he was saying. But the whole idea is that at this particular point, there is in the area of technology the ability of machine to match the cognitive abilities of human beings. That is to say, the machine would mimic what a human being would do in that capacity, in an aspect that in an area whereby a system would feature that can be based on behavior patterns such as perception, problem solving, natural language problems, and planning, adaptation, and at the same time trying to make sure the machine learns. This is not just something from the automatic point of view. It's machine learn from the data, from the records, what could happen in the human context, and that it will learn it, let's say 100%, and it's given images of 80%, and then we'll be able to learn, and that's where the issues of machine learning comes in, algorithm comes in, and then interpret this data. Later on, the same way we test a student whether they have learned is the same way that you test a machine or a computer to identify correctly if this is the points using the models. So having said that, the technology at this time of the computer is to simulate human learning and comprehension, decision making, and make it creative and autonomous. But now in the context of criminal justice, as this topic suggests, is that from the perspective of criminal justice, which its purpose is to begin with prevention of crimes, later on investigation, trial, sentencing, and probably punishment or the restoration of the criminals to the society after they serving that term. So in that context, the AI could do much, and in the African setting whereby we have challenges in that particular, and I will shortly talk about it. And of course, human rights, these are basic entitlements to human beings by virtue that you are born human. There are certain rights, fundamental rights that you enjoy, including the right you will be referring to as potentially may be violated by using of artificial intelligence in that sense. And now this innovation is about creating something new at certain points. May not necessarily be absolutely new, but it's in a way that is doing certain things differently and being innovative. So in coming up with machines and computers doing what a human being could have done, and even doing better, as we will see, is what we refer here to artificial intelligence. And now in this context of criminal justice in Africa, we have to look at some of the challenges facing the African context that requires us to employ the technology, and that we be able to help in this situation. Most of us and we, the lawyers, will agree that there are so delays and the case backlogs if it comes to issues of courts, and there are issues of corruption in judicial service or even in the criminal justice system, and even up to the end in the prison, there is overcrowding in Africa, and there is limited access to justice. But there are also aspects of crimes, such as online crime being perpetuated with limited data protection policies in place, limited underreporting is an issue, capacity, political interference. So look at this fragile situation of criminal justice in Africa, and sometimes certain criminals are hard to track when it comes to that point using human intelligence. And in that context, the discussions on the potential of AI in reforming the justice system must be located and must be situated in this case. And that's why it becomes important that we look at this particular aspect and see how best we can position ourselves at the African continent. And like I said before, using AI or AI tools is not a new thing in Africa. We could look at certain things, but there has been innovation taking place recently, which I will just refer to, and will be part of discussion later on, such as in the examples of using of the AI in African criminal justice. For example, in Rwanda, digital core recording and judicial visualizations is in place. That is an aspect that needs to be taken into context. In Kenya, and of course, likely to Nigeria, there has been courts accepting the e-filing, electronic case management overcomes those challenges of case load. And in Nigeria, issues of e-filing and data forensic capacity to analyze using advanced AI technologies. And also in the Gambia, during the COVID-19, there has been virtual courts taking place. And I remember when I was at the University of Dar es Salaam at that point, my colleagues who were advocates of the High Courts of Kenya were able to attend our online court sessions. So that is through AI, and of course, that becomes an important aspect. And in South Africa, smart surveillance, and of course, we'll see at certain challenges that came with such in context of human rights. And in Egypt as well, the AI surveillance tools with aspect of actual recognition for counterterrorism, as they put it rightly. And also, this is not about criminal context. In the case of Morocco, the AI piloting AI has been used in criminal courts to manage case loads, reflecting a more administrative focus. So these are some of the examples whereby AI has been used, and I believe that these initiatives are good and they can also be improved. And of course, looking at the African context, some of the policies have been adopted, such as the African Union Continental Strategy for Artificial Intelligence 2022. We could see also data protection in Nigeria 2023 and also Kenya. So these are good initiatives taking place. And there is a benefit of using AI. As I started looking at the challenges that we have, some of the challenges I've just mentioned, sometimes it's hard to track certain suspects or criminals. A criminal may do something in this location and goes far, which with human capacity, you may not be able to follow and get. But if we have, and of course, some of us have seen cameras being installed in cities, and of course, those who were in Kampala recently, so it, and in the other cities, that when we use the AI, it can be able to track the hard to reach criminals or suspects in these particular points. And also another important aspect we can look at, and I believe it's one of the things that we can look into it, is that some of the strategies of AI can be used to predict the crime rate. We can predict that in Lagos, the crime rate will reach to 80% in 2035. I'm not trying to say that's going to be that way. I'm not trying to also victimize the citizens of Lagos. By due respect, I just gave an example. And then the question will be, what measures, what strategies would be taken in order to reduce or to prevent crime? Because ordinarily, the purpose of criminal justice prevent crimes. So, and with that, the data could be analyzed and then see what strategies could be taken, which we could not do humanly. And that could be an opportunity if we are to employ AI in that particular context. And could also be used to reduce case backlogs. You can see now so many cases. I have a client whose case was opening in 2007. Up to now has not yet been decided. But if we could use AI in this sense to be able to analyze and be able to reduce this research in the context of of judiciary, and these cases could be handled in a very quick as possible than it used to be, reducing this particular caseload. And that can be used by using advanced, sometimes forensic analysis in that particular area. But also it will fasten, if we are to use it in the side of criminal investigation division, to fasten investigation and also to lead in the court session objective decision making at that particular point. And in that sense, even courts could be used, and in criminal justice, biometric identification. Those are some that we can use, and they can be able to help us, because in this area, the predictive policing algorithms, data-driven aspects could also help in that particular moment. And of course, it will help. Like I said, there are certain areas whereby I think you cannot easily reach, hard to reach areas where certain groups are. In the context of South Sudan, and of course, I see a good friend of mine who was sharing research, John Mike is there, I think, that there are certain groups in South Sudan, particularly in Juba and in 3 hotspot areas, it's very hard to reach. Sometimes I refer to crews and they have names. But if you could use AI to crack them down, to track them, you would be able to achieve the objective of criminal justice. But having said that, is not to say this is a panacea for everything. There are also challenges that comes with using of AI and in the context of Africa. And these challenges in the context of human rights, you could see that AI could violate rights to privacy. Let's see the context of surveillance, as we were talking about before, in the context of South Africa has raised issues, and in the context of Egypt, it has raised issues because it sometimes can collect data without informed consent and could violate people's rights. How can you surveil this in my room unless I have opened my camera? But you now be able to inspect what is inside and surveil this could violate my rights, and of course entrenched in the African Charter. And the African Commission has also been very vocal on this, that it shouldn't violate people's rights, and also the aspect of data protection in South Sudan, in the African context. There are policies, and of course do not integrate the AI. There has been some improvements, but those one have to integrate AI, as I would put in my recommendation aspect. And that comes to another aspect of algorithmic biasness. In an aspect of classification, you see when you use these models, they are made in such a way that they have certain features or hidden features that this is what is his and this is what it is. So there are aspects of misclassification. And when it is classified, the innocent could be victimized, and the country will walk away in that sense. And sometimes can discriminate. If you switch in the context of Africa, without looking at the historical background, whereby there have been historical gender issues, you will have some challenges. I was reading, and these points came up, that if you look at the criminology studies, the behavioralists would say, or biological school of thought would say, you can look at the features of a person and say, okay, this particular person look rude, and this person is a criminal. He has a big forehead like mine, is a criminal. I don't think I'm a criminal in that sense. But the AI will not have that judgment to make it. So long as this feature is there, you'll be able to tap, and then I'll be the victim in this case. And in that sense, also in the context whereby it is made in such a way that males are the criminals. So it will be able to apply that to males. But there are certain situations whereby you see certain other factors, environmental factors, that will make somebody gloomy. And that doesn't mean that person is a criminal in nature. It's not. It's that they are trained. And in the place where people are resilient, like in Africa, you can see a person looking, smiling, but that person has an issue. I remember something when I was young, and I don't know whether I can share it. I used to beat children. And the point I beat them is when I'm laughing. When I'm laughing is when I'm annoyed. When I'm quiet, I'm even not annoyed. So you can misjudge this, and this is the bias that comes with it. And you see, AI also feeds on data. And there's, as I say, limited data in African context, and that could compromise those aspects. And also the issue of data being collected without authorization. In that context, that would violate the intellectual property of an individual. And some of you, let me use the other side. You just type in the chat GPT, it will give you all the answers that you think are right, but doesn't give you citation. And that was the issue in the Indian case that was recently decided. And also freedom of expression, because if you can surveil people online, and our governments in Africa should look into that, certain things are also undermined. And when people have to spread their view, they may be, AI would look at them and say, this is not right. You can see on social media at certain points whereby you want to post something and it's blocked. And you don't know the reason why, and say this has issues. So at that point, it will also have issues if we bring in the context of the criminal justice. And even in this case, I want to also further say it, much as AI is being used in other parts in Africa, we need to understand African diversity. You see, the data is not versatile. What could be the patterns in South Africa may not be the case in South Sudan this side. If we put certain features and say this is the issue. I used to remember when I was in East Africa, people would say Southerners are bad people. They are very aggressive and ABCD. And by the way they walk and look, they're aggressive. You have to try to understand why they are that way. And I don't think some of you are listening, and my professors are online, they will agree that I am not that very aggressive. I'm used not very aggressive. Some people may think I'm aggressive in that. And that could violate my rights if that is to be decided by an AI, and even in the courts, whereby it could be proven. Much as AI could help issues, you cannot bribe AI. And of course, we look at it, there are people behind it. You could not bribe it. But again, it cannot make decisions that a human intelligence at that moment is able to make. So we need to look into that context and see how best we can maximize and also do such issues like testing and validation in AI to use it. Having said this, there is a need for us to use artificial intelligence. Certain things will improve in the criminal justice. Cases will be decided expeditiously, and then the work will be reduced. But there are also challenges that need to be worked. Like, not everyone in the ICT section in the criminal justice is informed about AI. So there are needs of certain things that need to be put in place, and in order not to violate human rights. I would say, one, we are eager to adopt policies and to bring practices outside the African context. But my recommendation would be, let us not copy and paste what is in the other region, but let's try to learn and now contextualize the AI to suit the African setting, because the models that is used in Europe may not be applicable in African context, but it can be modified to fit our situation. So let us not pick it, the policy, put it the way it is, not really, or the practice as it is and put it that way, it will help. It will also have chilling effects on human rights. And then what we should do there is to learn. Let's learn. I remember, and my professor, let me use this example, Professor Tajuddin, we were in a class and was teaching us environmental law. So at certain point, we're copying notes. And one student asked and said, Prof, may you kindly pardon me? And he said from where. The student mentioned the place, and Professor went with giving the answer. The student said, but you had said something different from what you said. And the prof said, I did not cram this subject. I understood it. So, and I can say it in many ways. I was also copied that one to my student and said, here is not cram work. Understand something deeply, understand how these models work, and then how can it be placed in the African context. And also the aspect of having developed our human capacity to be capacity building. So that those who work in the ICT section and in the area of artificial intelligence should be people who understand how it works and be able to know how best it can be used not to violate, but to promote the purpose it was supposed to be. And we should, I made mention that there are policies already adopted to good gesture, but some are lacking in these policies. They do not integrate exactly the AI components. So there's a need to adopt laws and policies that safeguard human rights. And I would say in my end that AI, if we are to use it, it should consider human rights-based approach in order to balance innovation for development and also for justice in the criminal sector, and at the same time to protect certain basic human rights. I want to say that, let's take it clearly, criminals or suspects do not lose all the rights. They are humans, they have the rights, and the right also be protected. But we, Africa, must advance. Africa must maximize opportunities and move forward by learning, transfer of knowledge from others, and place them in the African context and the setting. So thank you very much for listening. I would love to end here, and I will hand over to you, Mr. Chavi. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel, for that intensive and insightful talk. Really appreciate having you here. So without wasting much of our time, we would like to move to the next thing on the agenda. You know, we've been talking about AI and justice all along. What if AI moves to the environmental aspects? AI detecting oil spills, AI tracking illegal fishing, or even uncovering evidences of environmental crimes. So what would we do in those instances? So our next speaker, Professor Tajuddin Sani, who is ably represented by Ms. Isha Adil Nassim, is going to be taking us on the topic AI-driven forensic and evidence management for environmental crime. Ms. Isha Adil Nassim is currently an LLM candidate in the Global Business and Finance Law program at Bristol Law School, University of the West of England, through an affiliation with Villa College in Maldives. Ms. Isha recently achieved notable recognition for representing Villa College at the prestigious Jinnah Fellowship, showcasing her academic zeal and international engagement. She is actively participating in academic and legal forums, embodying the drive and global perspective, characteristic of emerging leader in legal scholarship. Ms. Isha Adil Nassim, thank you so much. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, you are becoming heard, ma'am.
Yes. May I please share my screen for the slides?
Yes, please.
Are the slides visible now?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Isha Ado Nassim, and I am an LLM student at Villa College. And I am presenting on behalf of Dr. Tajuddin. He is the head of the Center for the Transformative Environmental Marine Law, Marine Law Center at the Faculty of Sharia and Law at Villa College. And my topic for today is AI and criminal evidence in environmental cases. Now, AI is increasingly being used in environmental law enforcement to help with the investigation of environmental crimes and violations, and also in the prosecution of environmental crimes. AI is mainly used to analyze large data sets and to identify certain patterns and to provide insights, which can then be used as evidence in court. Now, when we look at the applications of AI in environmental cases, as mentioned previously, AI can be used to analyze large data sets which are related to environmental crimes and to analyze data sets such as satellite imagery, sensor data, and also for the monitoring of reports. And AI can also identify patterns in data which may indicate environmental crimes such as deforestation or pollution. And AI can also be used to predict the likelihood of environmental crimes occurring in certain regions or in certain conditions. And AI can be used to collect and analyze evidence, such as images and videos, which can then be used as evidence in court. So when we look at the types of AI that is used in environmental cases, machine learning algorithms, these can be used to analyze data and to identify patterns. And deep learning algorithms, these can be used to analyze complex data such as images and videos. And natural language processing can also be used to analyze text-based data, such as reports and documents. Now, I'll be looking at some of the benefits of using AI in environmental cases. Now, one of the benefits of using AI in environmental cases is that it helps to improve the efficiency of investigations. AI can automate certain tasks, so it will improve the speed of investigations, and it can also enhance the accuracy. AI can reduce certain errors, and it can improve the accuracy of evidence-based analysis. And equally, it can also increase the effectiveness of investigations. AI can help to identify certain patterns and certain trends which may not be apparent to human investigators. But there are challenges and limitations of using AI in environmental cases as well. Now, one of these challenges is the data quality. So AI requires high quality data to produce accurate results. And if the data that is generated from the AI mechanisms, if it is poor, then you might not be able to get accurate results. And this can impact the reliability of the evidence that you are using in court. And AI algorithms, they can also be biased or they can contain errors. So if the AI algorithms are biased or if they have errors, this can impact the accuracy of the results and it can taint the reliability of the evidence, so which may not be admissible in court. And one of the biggest challenges of using AI in environmental cases is the interpretability. So AI models, they can be complex and they can be difficult to interpret. And this can make it challenging to understand the results. So if AI mechanisms are being used to generate data, the person who's using the AI algorithm, they have to be really familiar with the mechanism to really understand the results and to generate evidence that is reliable enough to be admissible in court. And there are challenges and also limitations of using AI in court. Now, the admissibility of AI-generated evidence in court, this is still a developing area of law. So we may need more regulations to be implemented in order to use evidence that is generated by AI for it to be admissible in court. And although AI models and algorithms may be used to generate evidence, experts may still be required to testify about the reliability of the AI models and algorithms that are used. And most importantly, AI models and algorithms that are used in court, they have to be transparent and they have to be explainable to ensure that whatever evidence is being admitted to the court, this is reliable and this is trustworthy. So when we look at the opportunities for using AI in the future in environmental cases, AI is likely to become increasingly used in environmental law enforcement. And for this, new AI techniques such as explainable AI, they may need to be developed to address the challenges and also the limitations of AI in environmental cases. And international cooperation may also be necessary to develop certain harmonized standards and guidelines for the use of AI in environmental cases. So to conclude, AI has the potential to revolutionize the way in which environmental crimes are investigated and prosecuted. And as AI continues to evolve, it is likely to play an increasingly important role in environmental law enforcement. But even though there are significant developments in AI, there is a need for continued human checks to ensure that criminal cases in environmental law they are not subject to the errors of AI. So, as mentioned previously, AI algorithms they can have errors, they may be biased. So, even though AI is used in the collection of analysis, and even though it's used for evidence for environmental criminal violations, they still have to be checked by humans. Human intervention is still required to check for possible errors and inaccuracy. So to do that, we need to come up with strategies, development initiatives, and capacity development initiatives to really use AI in the environmental cases and to really ensure that even though AI is being used to generate evidence, we have to minimize the errors. If you have any questions, you can contact me or Dr. Tajuddin with the emails that I provided on the slide. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Isha. Thank you so much for showing us how AI can literally defend our planet. So now let's move on to the next session, the next program on the agenda. We've been talking about AI now since we started this session, but without governance, AI can easily spiral out of control. So who sets the standard? Who ensures the fairness? Who protects the vulnerable when machine makes decision? Our next speaker, Dr. Nyambi Info, is going to be discussing with us on. He's going to be discussing with us on governing AI in criminal justice, international standards, and ethical safeguards for Africa. Dr. Nyabi Info, he is an associate professor in the Faculty of Law and in the Faculty of Sharia and Law at Villa College in Maldives. He holds a PhD in public law from the University of Jiang, Cameroon, awarded with the highest distinction, Très honorable avec facilitation du jury, French equivalent for summa cum laude. Please forgive me for wrong pronunciation. Alongside a master's degree in public law and a bachelor degree in law and public and political science from the same esteemed institution, reflecting a consistent trajectory of academic excellence. Prior to his appointment in the Maldives, he served as lecturer in law and head of the law department at Institute the Institute Enseignement Superior de Ruhengeri in Rwanda. Please forgive me for the wrong pronunciation, please. Where he founded and directed the Center for Human Rights and Sustainable Development, CRIS, a hub for rights-based legal research and advocacy. A passionate educator, he teaches and mentors across undergraduate and postgraduate levels. His research navigates the intersection of human rights law, international criminal law, and transitional justice, where law meets the conscience of humanity. Beyond the lecture hall, Dr. Mfo is a resolute defender of human rights dignity and the rule of law, actively engaged with national, regional, and global institutions dedicated to rights protection, atrocity documentation, and the advancement of legal accountability in times of conflict. In every endeavor, he remains anchored in purpose, guided by truth, justice, and the transformative power of legal thoughts. Dr. Nyambi Mfo, please kindly proceed with your presentation, sir. Thank you so much.
Hello, good evening from the Maldives. I I want to say thank you very much for the invitation, for inviting me to speak at this very, very important event. I'm Dr. Nyambi. I would love to do some corrections. I am not an associate professor. I am an assistant professor. I won't want to take upon myself a title which I'm not yet, which I've not yet attained. So I thank the organizing committee for inviting me once again. I equally thank my co-panelists for actually giving us an enriching discussion of how AI can be used in the criminal justice system, or how AI is being used in the criminal justice system, specifically within African states. And I equally want to say many thanks to my senior colleague, Professor Tajuddin, who unfortunately was unable to join us, but he was actually represented, or he is actually represented by Ms. Isha, who is equally one of our very, very brilliant students here at Villa College. Okay, so I'll be presenting under the subtopic governing AI in criminal justice, international standards and ethical safeguards for Africa. Based on the presentations that have been given by our previous, or by our previous presenters, they have already set the pace. They have already defined what AI is all about. So the audience already has sufficient understanding as to what AI is. I won't want to go back into what they have already discussed. I will actually want to be more specific on the international standards and ethical safeguards that are actually in place in order to curb the excesses that comes with artificial intelligence vis-a-vis the criminal justice system. Now, at the international landscape, the question arises, who sets these safeguards? Like AI, in as much as we can say AI is a novelty, but it is something that has been existing, and that is for a considerable long period, and Africa has just been struggling to see how they can digest this novelty, and all to the excesses that AI comes with. It is actually very, very important that certain safeguards and certain guidelines were put in place, both at the international and continental level, specific to Africa, since our discussion confines us to Africa, but that does not in any way stop us from doing some sort of comparative analysis to leverage from best practices from other continents. So there are certain, so we have certain international guidelines, or we have certain international texts that actually streamline the way AI should be used ethically, so that it doesn't actually become a curse than a blessing. So the very first of these international instruments that are very, very important, that actually lay down how AI should be used. The very first on the line, we have the United Nations General Assembly resolution that was adopted in 2024, which actually centers on safe, secure, and trustworthy AI systems for sustainable development. As we all know, we have 17 sustainable development goals, and whether we like it or not, AI, as most people say AI is the future, but I will disagree. AI is what we have now. AI is no longer the future. AI is what it is today. And forgive me if I'm rude, but either we live with it or we die with it. AI has come to stay. AI actually it is actually being updated. It is actually being innovated day to day. But I think it is already here, and we just need to embrace it. And this actually makes me recall when I was still in Rwanda. I had the opportunity to have represented. I had the opportunity to have represented the Vice Chancellor of my former university of affiliation at the graduation ceremony of students that were actually being released from the Rwandan Law School, the Institute of Legal Practice and Development. And there the Minister of Justice, the Rwandan Minister of Justice, was present. And he actually said something that was quite profound. Just as my my colleague, Mr. Dwom, actually, he mentioned Rwanda. Rwanda has actually done a lot of strides in terms of legislations and in terms of introducing AI into their criminal justice system. And the minister actually said something which I will really never forget in a hurry. He said, AI has come to stay, but AI should not replace human intellect. So AI should rather be a blessing. AI should rather be a plus, but AI should not actually jeopardize our human intellect, because there are certain things within the criminal justice system where we see the limits of artificial intelligence. And our colleague actually cited the famous Indian case, and there have been cases where we have seen lawyers actually preparing briefs based on ChatGPT generated material, and some of the cases were actually misleading and found with a lot of flaws and equally unfounded. So the United Nations General Assembly resolution is one of these international instruments. The international community, the United Nations General Assembly, has actually done a lot by adopting this resolution. And African states can actually leverage from this resolution and actually come up with robust frameworks regarding the ethical use of AI. Next on the line, we have the UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence, which was adopted in 2021. And this instrument, or this text, sets a comprehensive human rights-centered ethical baseline, including human oversight. As I earlier espoused, artificial intelligence should not or should never replace human intellect. Imagine I am a practicing, imagine I'm a lawyer, I am an advocate, and all of my cases, for instance, are generated by AI tools without me actually reading, going through and fact-checking as to if what these AI tools have given me are actually in line with what I'm actually going to argue in court. You are going to notice that that will be a catastrophe. So we must have human oversight. We should be able to actually go through, in as much as AI actually offers a lot of help, but we equally should not discard our responsibility in actually contributing to the criminal justice system. So this UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of AI actually lays down an ethical baseline based on transparency and explainability, accountability, non-discrimination, fairness, privacy, and data governance. you will actually, I still remember while I headed the law department at Ines Rwengiri in Rwanda, we actually had a visit from a prestigious non-governmental organization in Uganda called Unwanted Witness. They are actually focused on digital rights, and they paid a courtesy visit to our university for purposes of collaborating. And I had to learn a lot from them, and they actually focus on artificial intelligence, data privacy, digital rights, data governance, and we really learned a lot from them, and that is in this regard. So that is the next international text that actually pinpoints certain ethical guidelines which should be taken into consideration when using artificial intelligence. We equally have the OECD AI principles of 2019, which were updated in 2024. As we lawyers will say, principles are considered soft law. They are actually not binding, but they equally are very, very important because they actually spell out certain important points which we can actually leverage from them in coming out with robust frameworks. And these OECD AI principles, they are founded on 5 values. 5 base value principles, including inclusive growth, human-centered values, fairness, transparency, explainability, robustness, safety, and security, which means artificial intelligence should be used in a safe way, in a secured way, and it should equally provide for that. There should be avenues of accountability in terms of abuse, or in case artificial intelligence jeopardizes into human rights of a person. Now, for comparative purposes, we have continents whereby they have very, very good laws. They are very, very good instruments where Africa can leverage from. For instance, in the European Union, we have the EU Artificial Intelligence Act, which was recently equally adopted in 2024. And this act actually mirrors a lot from the UN General Assembly resolution on AI. And most EU laws of recent have been tailored. Most member states in the EU have tailored their laws pertaining to the use of AI towards this act. We equally have the Council of Europe Framework Convention on AI, which was opened for signature on the 5th of September 2024. Now, on the continental level, or at the continental level, what has Africa done in terms of coming out with a governance framework pertaining to the use of AI? And Africa, we cannot say Africa has not done anything. Africa, both continentally and in terms of the efforts that have been made by individual member states, Africa has done a lot, but Africa still needs to do more. There's a lot that Africa still needs to do in terms of coming out with a conducive governance system with respect to the use of artificial intelligence, particularly within our criminal justice systems. But the very first framework which Africa has actually adopted or endorsed, which is actually of profound importance, is the African Union Data Policy Framework, which was endorsed in 2022, and it provides a continental vision and an array of principles for data governance in terms of promoting data protection and value creation from data. My colleague actually talked about the fact that when users, that is when we use AI, we should be very careful of intellectual property because most of the times AI tools generate they generate material from diverse sources, and credence should be given to such to the authors of these materials. So we have the AU data policy framework, which is it lays a strong foundation for rules on data sets, and it can be used, and the principles that are laid in this framework can be used by African states. African states can leverage from them in terms of their use of AI within their criminal justice systems. More to that, we have the Malabo Convention on Cybersecurity and Personal Data Protection, which was adopted in 2023. Sorry, it entered into force in 2023, and one of the things we must know is artificial intelligence, if not carefully used, can jeopardize personal data protection, or can jeopardize data privacy, and it can equally jeopardize cyber security. So this convention actually establishes obligations for personal data protection and cyber security, and it equally lays a legal basis for regulating sensitive criminal justice data sets, cross-border data flows, and security controls for AI suppliers. Now, what are some of the ethical safeguards when it comes to the use of AI tailored to criminal justice? The very first that we must take into consideration is legality, necessity, and proportionality. That's very first. Okay, and that is why you see both internationally, continentally, and nationally, states are trying to put in place robust frameworks, because there should be a legal basis of how AI should be used. For instance, my colleague from Nelson Mandela University talked about the fact that in Rwanda, in Nigeria, in South Africa, these states are putting in place robust frameworks, or they are actually doing everything possible to come up with robust frameworks that should actually showcase legality of how AI should be used. If I remember very well, Rwanda uses an integrated case management system. Rwanda tries to digitalize, or Rwanda is actually trying, or they have made a lot of strides geared at digitalizing their justice system. It's true, a lot still needs to be done, but they are actually doing a lot in terms of digitalization and the ethical use of AI. So AI should be met with legality. It should be used when necessary, and it should be used proportionately. Now, we equally have the next safeguard online, which I think is equally very important, is that of human oversight and contestability. The fact that AI can be very useful in the criminal justice system doesn't mean that its use cannot be contested. And what does this mean? It actually entails that we, using artificial intelligence, be it the courts, be it the police, be it those in practice, we should be able to ensure meaningful human control. And we should be able to know our limits. We should be able to, we should not allow AI actually control us. We should be the ones to actually draw a clear line as to how far AI should be used. So there should be this human control that should be employed. That is why we should actually have human oversight, and we should be able to contest. For instance, how did we know that most lawyers in the West and in some other countries actually, how was it discovered that most of them use, let's say, ChatGPT to generate materials that were really unfounded? That actually means that AI, the use of AI should not be considered supreme. It should be contested, and this will go a long way to actually safeguard us from the curse AI can equally be. We equally have non-discrimination controls. Non-discrimination controls. For instance, why in Rwanda, when Mr. Dohom was actually talking about the fact that most people from East Africa think South Sudanese are very, very aggressive, I think it's true. That is a mindset people have. Because there in Rwanda, there are a lot of South Sudanese that are schooling, and people already have this mentality, and people might already be generating material based on this, which is necessarily not true. So AI produces what we give it, because AI itself was actually manufactured by humans. So the moment you type, for instance, there should be no discrimination. If, for instance, let's just say I'm a South Sudanese, for instance, and I committed murder, and the judge, who is actually adjudicating the case, is already has a mindset that South Sudanese are, let's say, aggressive, and he uses AI tools, and with that bias, okay, he already thinks that, or he already knows that South Sudanese are aggressive. That jeopardizes on what? Presumption of innocence already automatically, which means there's a question as to the impartiality of the proceeding already. Why? Because the judge already has that is a pre-notion which is not true based on what maybe AI has actually given him. So there should be what? Non-discrimination. It will actually go a long way. That is, there should be certain control mechanisms that should be put in place to ensure accuracy and fairness as to how AI is actually used, especially in the criminal justice system, where the defendant is before a court of law and is within or is in between life imprisonment or even death penalty as or loss of liberty as a whole. So we actually need to be very, very cautious when it comes to the use of AI, and we should come out with, or African states should come out with non-discrimination control mechanisms in order to curb some of these excesses. In addition to that, there should be documentation and auditability. The material or what AI gives us, we should be able to audit. We should not just embrace it. We should be able to audit it. So there should be court scrutiny, just like lawyers audit, they control. That is, they actually control what their counterparts might actually submit. We should equally be able to control what AI might actually provide us with. So there should be this scrutiny. This is why human oversight and contestability is very, very important. Like, I have this opinion, to criticize is not a bad thing. That is, in most states, when people hear of criticize, they think of radicalization. From my own perspective, we can only grow if we criticize. That is constructively. I believe in constructive criticism, and I think all of us here, we are academics, some are practitioners. We believe in constructive criticism, And even when we are doing our personal research, I cannot say I don't use AI. I use AI, but let's say I generate something, for instance, from ChatGPT or Claude or from Gemini or from Perplexity. I should be able to go through and actually probe as to whether what this AI tool has generated to me is actually correct, not just copying and pasting. As my colleague said, they should be what we should be able to contextualize. We should be able to adapt. There should be adaptability. So we should be able to audit what artificial intelligence actually offers to us within the criminal justice system, and African states should actually take this into consideration. So we equally have accuracy, robustness, security, transparency to the public, vendor accountability. And these are some of the ethical safeguards that should be taken into consideration in addition to the international the international standards that states and international organizations have put in place, which we anchor on with respect to governing AI. I want to take this opportunity once again to thank the organizers for inviting me, and to equally thank my co-panelists for their wonderful presentations. It was quite enriching. And I want to end here for now. And I equally want to open floor for questions. If you have any question, please don't hesitate to actually post, so we can have more clarity and a more engaging conversation. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nyambi, for that very insightful presentation you've given us today. We are very grateful. So now comes the time we've been waiting for, the question and answer period. So let's hear from you. If you have a question, kindly type the question in the chat box, or even you can raise your hands. So while we are waiting for questions, I also have some questions here for our presenters today. So I have questions for our presenter. Mr. Daniel, I have a question for you, sir. So my question goes thus, most African leaders do not invest in education, not to talk of science and technology. What is your advice to our leaders with regards to investing in science and technology, sir?
Thank you so much, and thank you, Dr. Nyambi, for your insightful presentation. That's a fact in Africa, but I do not want to say that is the case for all the leaders in Africa. Some are investing in education, and some are not. So the first thing is that those who are not investing in education before this science should be able to get inspired by their colleagues. That's the African leaders. But again, as Dr. Nyambi said, AI has come, citing the quote, AI has come to stay with us. So as a leader, you are at the forefront of taking your people ahead to where they are. Now, world has come to the point where AI is the order of the day. And I want to even agree now we're using AI. Unless somebody is saying it's magic. It used to be magic to see somebody on the wall speaking. Or it used to be by the supernatural power of God that you could be talking in a vision. But now you are in Nigeria, Professor is in Maldives, I am in Juba, South Sudan, and everywhere we are now engaging in AI. So if we cannot take that stand and be able to maximize this, we will be missed behind. And your people will not appreciate your leadership. Take an example, Mr. Chaffee. countries that have invested in technology, when COVID-19 came in, they were not that most affected. They had their meeting online. The education was online. Others who did not see that opportunity were forced now. It was forced now to move online. And that was quite demanding and not cost effective. So if you are a leader who love your people, it's not your fault at certain points, but you have now to catch up with the other part of the world, be able to learn. It's not a shame for you to say, I do not know this, as Dr. was saying, let's us refer to this. I was really touched and moved by the presentation of Dr. Professor Tajuddin represented, that we could even use AI in environmental context. So AI could be used everywhere in our daily lives. So leaders should be able to do that. If you want really to take your people, you want to lead them. That's what I would say in this context. Over to you, Mr. Chapo.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for that answer. So, Mr. Mwesingwa, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question? Within 1 to 2 minutes, please.
Thank you so much. Please confirm I can be heard and seen.
Yeah, you can be heard but not seen.
All right. I want to thank Firdaus for putting together this, but also to thank our very amazing panelists on this very insightful webinar. My name is Nicholas Mwesigwa. It's good evening here in Kampala. And yes, when I saw this call, Dr. Tajuddin lectured in international law, but also jurisprudence. And yes, I said I could not afford those very pertinent concerns, specifically the question of data privacy and intellectual property. We all know that what makes AI the baby shark in modern technology is its ability to fetch from different contents and digest them in the least time possible to produce results. Meaning that if we had to try to control how much it can fetch and the extent to which it can, what it is right now, it would be as good as Google or any other search engine we could use. Now, the question to you, Daniel, and this Dr. Nyambi could also throw his thoughts onto it. To what extent can we limit the ability of AI to encroach into people's data, but also to fetch into copyrighted information? In other words, should we waver in the defense of because we think AI is invading the privacy, is getting into intellectual property concerns, so we should limit it so much that we may not try to vandalize people's works in the name of intellectual property or invade people's data in the name of data privacy. The policies that have been laid by Dr. Nyambi, I've not read most of them in specific terms, but I doubt they limit or they provide cover for the concerns that you put up, Daniel. I need to hear from you on what you think should be done specifically in protection of intellectual property, but also data privacy, if AI is to remain AI with its capacity as it is now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. And I'll say one thing and reserve this to Professor Nyambi because he touched on aspects of standards and safeguarding. What I would suggest, and I would say to your answer, is that we need to adopt a human rights-based approach. It needs to be integrated with policies of AI so that it limits the AI potential of encroaching into people's privacy, and it could be regulated as other sectors are also limited. And I have talked about, and I think Professor said something, it's not about you taking it and then just putting it that way. There is a need also to apply human intelligence in this particular area. But I want to reserve these questions to Professor, so because he handled that particular part. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so very much for your question. Just as my colleague said, all right, I believe artificial intelligence is a mixed blessing. Okay, even before AI came into existence, we have actually seen intellectual property rights of people being jeopardized, being endangered. So why we might blame AI has its own issues, okay? And just to be quick, how can we contain with it? Because truth be told, we will not actually contain with it 100%. We can simply limit it, but these infelicities will still be there. I think the very first, African states are still very, very that is their legal frameworks and policy frameworks are very, very ill-equipped. So the first thing that Africa should do is to come out with what? Robust laws, robust policies, robust frameworks. Okay, that is the very first. There should be a sense of legality. Something should bind us first. Secondly, I actually think that measures should be put in place. For instance, Africa or member states can come out with what? Sensitization programs. People need to be sensitized because in as much as we have criminal sanctions, but there are still people that are still unaware, even though we might say as lawyers, ignorance is no excuse. Yes, but if we continue by the adage, ignorance is no excuse, and people still keep using AI ignorantly to infringe into intellectual property rights of others, I actually think it amounts to nothing because criminal law itself cannot solve all problems in society. So there should be some sort of non-penal measures that should be put in place as well. For instance, states should actually come out with sensitization and mobilization programs to educate people on the the dangers of infringing into the intellectual property rights of others, especially through the use of artificial intelligence. There is a question was asked to Mr. Is it Mr. Bernard or Mr. Duom about the fact that education, that is most African states have not yet embraced AI education and so on. I equally think that AI should equally be included. AI should be taught into our school programs. For instance, when you go to a country like China, kids start learning artificial intelligence from a very tender age. It is included into their curricula, and they are actually taught and they grow with this knowledge, and they actually, when they get to a more mature minds, that is a more mature level where they are then useful to society, they actually know the pros and cons of artificial intelligence. So a lot still needs to be done. And I don't believe in copy and paste. You know, most African member states just love copying things and pasting, but they don't take into consideration our societal context. They don't take into consideration our societal context. And just as we will say in jurisprudence, there's this legal thought that says law changes as society changes. So the same way society is changing is the same way the law has to change. And you equally need to adapt the people to the societal changes. You actually need to adapt law as the society is changing, and adapting the people to receive this change. Believe me, there are a lot of things that need to be put in place, both legally and extra legally, and that is where the problem actually lies. So personally, this is my opinion. I don't think we might attain a level where AI will never be detrimental, but if these systems are put in place, then we can actually curb the excesses that comes with AI vis-a-vis intellectual property. And just to highlight one final thing before I give the floor back to the moderator, like when you go to a country like North Korea, let me direct a little. You notice that North Korea practices the TV generation punishment policy, but people still commit crimes in North Korea. So this is just to tell you that we cannot use criminal sanctions alone in order to say, okay, if you use artificial intelligence and you plagiarize my works, or you violate intellectual property and so on, you go to prison and so on. No. Okay, someone is talking about Turing. I accept perfectly, but as we speak now, there are AI tools that can be used to defeat even Turing. There are people that actually defeat even that software, in as much as it is celebrated. But we have AI tools, advanced AI tools and technologies that can equally defeat that. So we just need to, it is a system of both government and collective effort from the state and its citizens, from civil society. We need to partner together, and a lot of things need to be taken into consideration so that this should actually be contained with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nyambi. So before I allow the other person to ask his question, I have a question for Ms. Isha. Ms. Isha, your area of presentation is unique and most people are not aware of it. What do you think can be done to promote awareness?
Hi, thank you. Yes, like as you've mentioned, I think using AI in the area of environmental law, it is like new. So maybe even at the like university level, like even for me, this is a new area. I think when we study environmental law, like it would be important for us to like consider how AI can be used in investigation and also in enforcement. And obviously, AI, even though it's used to generate evidence for environmental crimes or environmental violations, I think it's very important to have guidelines in place on how AI can be used in reference to international standards on how AI can be used ethically in that region. At least at the university level, when it is being taught, I think that's an area that we can focus on.
Thank you, Ma. Another question for you, Ma. Most of the environmental crimes, such as pollution and pollution, are committed by powerful countries. What should we do as a continent to protect our environmental interests?
Yes, thank you so much. Uh, I think it's important to have criminal sanctions for environmental violations, violations, and especially environmental crimes. These happen. Most of it is contributed to by large corporations. So I think in that area, in that regard, criminal sanctions or those kind of fines for that's important for violations caused by corporations, and it has to be enforced properly. It's necessary to have like larger fines for those corporations, I think.
Thank you so much, Mark. If we look at our time now, we would see that we have exceeded our the time scheduled for the webinar. So, if you would allow me to just take one more question from Mr. David, then we round up the session. Thank you so much. Okay. So, Mr. David sent his question. He said, what specific risk does Africa face if there is a lack of a legal framework to govern artificial intelligence, considering the fact that in Africa there is not much that is digitized and we still use a traditional approach to a lot of things that we do? Um, I don't know if Mr. Dr. Nyambi can help us answer that question too.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. Guys, to answer that question, I wouldn't want to be pessimistic. I would rather want to be optimistic, because we are here to actually seek solutions on how to curtail with the excesses of AI within the criminal justice systems of African states. And in as much as we are to know the various risks, but we should rather focus on actually coming out with innovative solutions that will actually solve some of these quagmires. So, to me, or based on the experience I have, okay, this is what African states can do, and I think this is what they are doing. Most often, you are going to notice that you see most African states meeting with these powerful countries. One of the things I think they are doing is that they are trying to see how they can transfer technology. For instance, you notice that most of these, like when you look at these treaties and conventions, all right, these international agreements, for instance, let's say the UN General Assembly resolution on AI, you notice it talks about cooperation between states, and cooperation can be scientific, educational, what again? Technological, because the risks are already there. We know the risk. We know the risks of not actually coming out with robust systems, both in terms of the legal basis and in terms of putting up the structures and the mechanisms to contain with these risks. The risks are known, all right, and there are so many of them. My colleagues talked about the risk, violation of privacy rights, presumption of innocence. There are so many of them. If AI is not used in an ethical manner, innocent people can go to prison. For instance, imagine an AI tool that I would say has been brainwashed to say Africans that look black like me and look a little bit ugly, for instance, or bony, are likely to be criminals. And we don't have legal instruments that have been put in place, that have been adopted, and ethical guidelines that have been put in place to contain with all of these. You know, these are innocent people who will be behind bars. So what can be done? And African states are doing it. African states are doing it. I don't know, but I will still come back to Rwanda. States are doing it. That is, the Rwandan state is doing it. You see, there's a lot of transfer of technology going on, because I personally think that to fight the excesses of AI, we need technology. We live in a technological and a digitalized era. Like just few decades ago, we didn't have Android phones. But today, you notice that our leaders, due to the international partnerships they create, they have opened the market, and Android phones, that is, technology is coming in. And in as much as technology itself has its own disadvantages, but it equally has its own uses. It equally has its own uses. For instance, the computer came, Microsoft came, people were plagiarizing. But now, the West discovered softwares that can be used to check plagiarism, and such softwares were transferred to Africa. Okay, and we are not saying that they are effective 100%, but at least they are trying. So technology comes to curb the excesses of technology, and this is what African states are doing, and I actually applaud them. But the thing is, they need to continue doing more, because if you look at the 54 or more states that exist in Africa, you are going to notice that most of them don't actually have robust AI laws. We are lawyers. There should be a legal basis on why we curtail with something. They don't have. And this gap, for instance, if I know that I can actually maneuver with AI and get what I want, and I am aware that the law actually is silent or there's a vacuum, why would I not do it? It's going to bring impunity. So I personally think, as a lawyer, I know if you ask a sociologist or maybe a political scientist, their responses might differ. Let's begin with the laws. Let's have good laws. Let's have robust laws. And from laws, let's come out with what? Let's come out with extra-legal programs. Okay, let's come out with extra-legal programs. Aside the laws, what? Let's come out with programs that we can actually enforce these laws. Extra-legal programs we put in place. Let's equally see how more technology can be transferred so that Africans can equally be trained. Like I was telling a friend of mine that when you see states actually saying that that is in partnership with, let's just say, the Republic of Maldives, in partnership with the US Embassy, is calling for scholarships. What is that? That is transfer of technology. Your students go there, or your citizens go there, they train them, maybe in the domain of artificial intelligence, and they have to come back and serve their country with what they have learned. What is the purpose of that? Is to improve on the system so that we keep all of these things. But I think the problems will still keep emanating, because the more we go, the deeper we go, the more problems we'll have. But we just need to see how we can contain with them. We can minimize them, but we cannot run away from them. And I don't think a society with AI will be problem-free. I don't think it will ever be. Even before AI came, there were a lot of deficiencies in our criminal justice system. And AI will actually not, we cannot say AI does not have its own problems, but a lot can be done so that these deficiencies that come with AI can actually be addressed, and we just keep working so that it doesn't escalate. Thank you very much. That is my opinion, and I stand to be corrected.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nyambi, for that robust response to the question. We really appreciate your time and thoughts. Now, as you've seen that we have exceeded, we've spent a lot of time. I would like to move on to the next thing. But before that, I would like to appreciate the presence of one of our investors in Firdaus Initiative for Academic Excellence. He has invested his time, money, and even energy in ensuring that the organization thrives and moves on well. Mr. Zakaria, we really appreciate your presence here. Thank you so much. And I appreciate the presence of everyone here too. So before we close the program, I would like to invite Mr. Swale. He's the director of programs at Fridaus Initiative for Academic Excellence to give us a few comments on the program. Thank you so much, Mr. Swale.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shafi, for this wonderful initiative on the concept of artificial intelligence in criminal justice, specifically within the context of Africa. And I have had the opportunity of listening to all the speakers, and it's a vital point to be able to take note that artificial intelligence, even though it has been taking a huge step in terms of being developed, there's still more that needs to be done. We look at it within the context of Africa specifically because it is vital in terms of the approach that we as Africans are going to take. There have been a number of initiatives that have been taken in terms of having a framework that will regulate artificial intelligence within Africa, specifically under the African Union, bodies, the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, and other organizations. But one key important thing that I think we should never forget is the approach that we are going to take should be able to be an approach that considers Africa as a special case. Why do I say so? Because, at the moment, it seems that every part of the world seems to take an approach, basically what we call the Brussels effects. When I talk about Brussels effects, it means, it's more of like we are taking the approach that the European Union takes. This happened with, the question of data privacy, which, it has been spoken in this, program. And the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation of the European Union, became more of a benchmark in terms of other regions developing their framework on, data protection, even though, it did not suit the needs or the special circumstances of those regions. And that's why my point is we should be able to take an approach, not necessarily as per the approach taken by the European Union, in the sense that it might not suit our needs. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the European Union AI Act at the moment takes an approach which we call it the risk-based approach, in the sense of having a four-tier risk-based in terms of the determination of whether or not an acceptable artificial intelligence would be there. Which is an approach necessarily that might not work for Africa, specifically considering the circumstances of Africa. And it is on that basis also I support the position that we need to have a human rights-based approach. I have been more of a proponent of a human rights-based approach in a number of things, including what I cover at the moment on my PhD thesis, which is specifically a human rights approach to marine environment in terms of sea level rise and climate change. And therefore, it is something that I consider that would be, a workable approach as a human rights-based approach for Africa. And I think that's the same proponent of when you look at the resolution 40 of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, in the sense of saying it's important for us to take an approach which is a human rights-based approach as far as developing a framework for Africa, because then it becomes vital in terms of the circumstances or in terms of how Africa is, rather than just having a Brussels effect in terms of more of copy-pasting from the approach of the European Union AI Act. So that's my take on the discussion, but otherwise I'd like to thank everyone who has been able to join, and at this juncture I will return it back to Mr. Shafi for the purpose of closing this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Swale, for your for the comments on the program. The topic has been a very interesting one, and we've had interesting insights from the speakers. So now I would invite Mr. Patrick to give us the closing remarks.
Thank you, Shafi. Good evening from Kenya. Yeah, my name is Patrick Mwema, head of good governance and leadership, and also the representative for East Africa. That is Kenya, Rwanda, and Tanzania. And I must say it has been an awesome deliberation on this key or this emerging issue seated pretty ministers, that artificial intelligence, on looking at the opportunities and the risk, that come with the AI, criminal justice. I really want to thank our speakers, for pouring their heart, spitting wisdom on this important topic. And it's my hope and prayer that we as the listeners and our members and our followers, that you have been able to tap immensely from the knowledge that has given unto us by our dear speakers. So for me, it's just to appreciate you for having taken your time, to come and educate us and give us the oversight on matters to do with artificial intelligence, and that we cannot take it for granted. So on behalf of the board and the rest of members at FIDAO's Initiative for Academic Excellence, is just to appreciate you and to thank you. And we pray that in future, you'll be available for us again to give us such knowledge in this important issue of artificial intelligence. Again, to our viewers, we appreciate you. We thank you for also taking your time to come and listen. And I believe that we have been able to benefit from this seminar. Of course, for those who will be able to watch in future again, of course, without any doubt, I know they will benefit a lot from this interaction. To the board, we thank you for according us the opportunity, especially the Department of Technology and Artificial Intelligence Unit, for us to be able to impact knowledge, to bring into light these critical topics that are important to our continent. And therefore, we appreciate the board, from the president and the entire board, for having given us the opportunity and the platform to be able to educate our fellow Africans. With that, I thank also the moderator, Mr. Abdullahi Shafi, also for a good job well done, and continue with that spirit, for the best interests of our Africa at large. So thank you very much, and may God bless you all.
Thank you so much. So the program has now come to the end. We thank you all for joining this session, and now declare the session closed. Thank you, and see you all next time.